Howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to episode 3 of the ANG cast, the podcast where we talk about video games and everything else in between. I am Josh, as always, joined by my lovely wife, Christa, for today's episode. How's it going, Christa?
It's going great.
That's good. So we are going to cover her top things of 2019. Even though we're like a couple weeks into 2020 now, she wanted to have an opportunity to talk about her top things of 2019. So do you have like a top 10 list for everything, or?
I kind of did what Ben did, like where I just like wrote stuff down that like I did this year and like that I enjoyed. I could not rank, especially like the movies and TV shows I watched because I watched so many. There's just no way that I could rank them by any means. But regardless, I enjoyed everything I did this year for the most part. So,
Okay.
Do you want me to go from like my biggest categories, or do you want me to do like my small and build on?
We'll do your smaller ones and build up to them.
So my smallest one is my games, because even though I watched you play a lot of games, I didn't play too many games. I mean, the main things that I played this year, 2019, was The Sims 4 and Stardew Valley. You kind of got me back into Stardew. I mean, I've always watched you play it, but of course, since I like Harvest Moon, this is like very similar to that. So this was like right up my alley. And of course, I put a lot of hours into it on the iPad. I haven't gotten back into it because of everything that we've done this year and how busy we've been. But Stardew Valley is definitely one of the things that got me back into gaming again. And The Sims 4, of course, you've heard me on the 100 Baby Challenge. I put over 950 hours in. So it's just a slight obsession. So no big deal.
Yeah.
They are coming out with a new expansion. It's called Tiny Homes. So it's like you can build tiny houses and you only get like a certain amount of plots, which seems interesting.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a stuff pack, so it's only gonna be $10, which I'm excited for. But that's all my games for this year. Even I didn't want to put games that I watched you play because that would be a really long list.
Yeah, I played quite a few, and I covered them in my list with Alex and talking with Aaron and everything. But yeah, that we always say this is the podcast about video games and everything in between. So I think today's going to be focused on the everything in between aspect of it for sure.
I mean, my game that I really liked watching you play was like Outer Worlds and stuff like that. Those kind of games, because those are just like, I like seeing those kind of games, and it was really pretty. It's a really pretty game. So I
still
enjoy.
need to get back and finish that one.
I enjoy games that really take the time to really build on like the story and like how pretty they are. Like those games are just so gorgeous. I just actually like enjoy watching it.
Yeah, yeah.
I think my next smallest category is my podcast. There's quite it seems like it's not a big list, but it's actually stuff that I think I've told you about. But my favorite one that I listen to, I'm a history nerd. If people don't know that about me, I really like history. My favorite podcast that I listen to is called The History Chicks. It's basically these two women who go through history and women in history and talk about, their life, talk about their stories, whether it's like an author, whether it's like the biggest one they've done is like Marie Antoinette. They've done Jackie Kennedy, Pocahontas, Mrs. Claus, even fictional people. They've even talked about Barbie, how Barbie was made, stuff like that. It's just really interesting to hear about other women's lives and history and like how we've seen them in media and like movies and how different they really were. And like how history played a role in how they lived and how they did what they did and what kind of difference they made in the world and stuff like that. It's just really cool to see that. I'm trying to get my mom into it because I know my mom would love it and it's like up her alley. But if you like history and you want to learn about like women in history, this is a really good podcast for that, because they are very, very factual. They try to make sure like, oh yeah, this probably didn't happen. They don't like to speculate. But it's a really good podcast. And then my second podcast I got into this year was Office Ladies, which you've talked about.
Yeah.
You got me into The Office, of course, and I freaking love it.
Yeah.
And Jenna Fisher and Angela Kinsey are just really great, and they are like best friends, so it's really cool to hear them banter and stuff about the show. And hearing all the background stuff that happened, it's just like so fascinating. Plus the show's great, so it's of course almost like reliving it again. My next one is called Work in Progress. If you've watched One Tree Hill, you know who the host is, Sophia Bush. She played Brooke, and of course I'm probably one of the biggest One Tree Hill fans thanks to this guy.
Yep.
But Work in Progress is a really good podcast. She brings on she's brought on Gloria Steinem, Alana from Broad City. She had Katie Couric. She had Karamo from Queer Eye. She's had a lot of famous people on there, and she's really fascinated to see how people have gotten to where they are and how they make a difference in society. She's really big in social justice, so it's really fascinating to hear her guest talk about all that. She talks about stuff like nutrition, Black Lives Matter, and everything in between, all that stuff, like just a huge range of stuff. And it's really, really good to hear it. My next one is just like a kind of like a bullshit podcast like I like to listen to, like when I have nothing else. It's called Confidently Insecure with Kelsey Darragh. Kelsey Darragh is someone that used to work at BuzzFeed, so she's like been a huge part of BuzzFeed, like the Try Guys were. And she talks her topics are just like so, like she talks about weed, she talks about she's just very blunt. She doesn't like give any shits. Like, and she's like, it's the podcast where she's like the podcast where we don't know, where we learn where we don't know anything, and then we learn stuff and stuff, like there's no shame in learning something when you don't know something and stuff like that. My next one is the Tripod, and you talked about that one. I love the Try Guys. I got Josh into them. And they just basically bullshit, talk about the stuff that they do behind the scenes of their videos and whatever they feel like talking about. So, I know it's not your favorite podcast, but I like the Try Guys, so it's like one I have to listen to. But my next one is Horns and Wings. Shout out to John from Make Stuff. It's his podcast where him and Noah from Polyphonic talk about Saga. And they go through each episode. I mean, not each episode. They go through each
issue. Thank you. Words are hard today. Yeah. Where they go through each issue and talk about it panel by panel. And of course, again, you got me into comics, and Saga was one of the first ones that you got me into, and I really love the story. We're definitely not caught up on it by any means, but they're on hiatus, so hopefully in the future we can get back into it and get like the trades or whatever. Yeah. But it's really good to go back and revisit, because I don't remember some of the earlier issues and stuff. And they're really funny too. And the last podcast that I've listened to this year was the Chernobyl podcast from the HBO show. That's a good one.
We don't need to relive Chernobyl.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a really good show, but it was really dark.
Yeah.
But this podcast is a really good companion to this is what actually happened in Chernobyl, and it's really devastating.
Well, a lot of history is worth revisiting, and I think Chernobyl especially is, so that we aren't doomed to repeat it again.
Oh, for sure, because there's that saying, if we don't learn from history, we're doomed to repeat it. And, but I don't mean to get sappy or sad on here, but with all the wildfires happening in Australia, this should ring a bell. Hey, let's not let this keep happening.
A different kind of environmental disaster, but still.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But still, it's the same lesson. We need to do something about this so it doesn't happen again. Yeah. But if you ever watch Chernobyl on HBO, you need to listen to this companion podcast, because it really helps you understand, in full depth of what happened and how they went with making this, and how they respected the they did a lot of work with Ukraine to make this, because they were the most affected. And how they made sure they covered everything that they could without because some of the stuff they said was so graphic they couldn't make it more graphic because it was more graphic, especially with the animals. That I couldn't watch that. We couldn't watch that. We normally don't do that with stuff, but that was like one of the few things we can't do this. Like because of the radiation, they had to kill off any other animals that were abandoned because they were radioactive. And it's just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, you don't think about that when a natural disaster happens, like all the cleanup that has to happen and everybody that's affected.
Yeah.
And of course, animals are like the most innocent thing. And to see that happen, you're just like, well, cool. Don't you love humanity?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what to go into next because they're both pretty long.
No, that's okay. But, do whatever you want to do next. Yeah.
I'll do movies next.
Okay.
These are not in order that I saw them. I just wrote them down as I remembered. So, to clarify too, the movies that I didn't see last year that came out that I still want to see, like that looked really good.
Yeah.
The new Aladdin live action movie, the new live action Lion King, which, probably would blow your minds that I haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
But because it's like, the Disney movie, but I haven't. Rocket Man, which is the story about Elton John. A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, which is the Tom Hanks movie about Mr. Rogers. The Farewell movie with Awkwafina.
Yeah.
That looked really good, and she won for Best Actress.
Yeah.
From the Golden Globe, so that's really cool. She was the first Asian American woman to win for I think it's supporting actress. I can't remember if it wasn't for Best Actress because Michelle Williams won that, so I think it was supporting actress. But then Frozen 2, everybody's been saying that's really good. That Ford versus Ferrari movie, that looked really good.
Yeah.
With Christian Bale, and who else is in that?
I can't remember.
Christian Bale and someone else, and I can't remember who.
Yeah.
Last Christmas with the guy from Crazy Rich Asians and Khaleesi.
Yeah.
Why is her name escaping me? Parasite. Everybody's been saying that's like one of their big movies of the year.
Yeah, that comes out on digital on Tuesday, so that's when we'll finally get to watch it.
That actually won for Best Foreign Film at the Golden Globes, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
It was also nominated for other stuff that didn't win. I think it was nominated for Best Screenplay, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I think something else, like it had one other nomination, maybe two others. Joker. I really want to see Joker now.
Yeah.
That, especially Joaquin Phoenix winning the Golden Globe for that. It looks dark, but it looks really good. Good Boys. Uncut Gems that you saw. And Toy Story 4, which we haven't seen. So there's a lot that I didn't see that I wanted to see, but
yeah,
they look really good, and I know they're going to be good. So the movies that I did see and really enjoyed was Jay and Silent Bob the reboot. We actually haven't talked about that one.
Yeah, I forgot to bring it up for mine, but yeah, we really enjoyed it. We saw it in theaters. It was like a limited Fathom event at Cinemark, our local Cinemark theater, and yeah, I mean, if you like Kevin Smith, it was basically just an hour and a half of Kevin Smith like jerking himself off. It was just perfect for Kevin Smith fans. Like, I followed him since I was a kid. Whenever I saw Clerks and Jay and Silent Bob for the first time,
and Harley Quinn was in it.
Yeah.
I mean, and like everybody you've seen from his movies are basically in this.
Yeah.
So if you're a Kevin Smith fan and like all his other movies, you'll love this one. It's great. It was great. And in the beginning of that, there was like this 10-minute not monologue, but them just talking about it, which is really cool. It's still weird seeing Kevin Smith like half his size.
Oh, yeah,
but,
for sure.
It was a really good, solid movie. And some of these are actually Netflix movies that, even though we never saw them in theaters, some of them I just remember from watching on Netflix that were really, really good.
Yeah.
the one that you haven't seen that I really want you to see, it's called To All the Boys I've Loved Before.
Yeah, I still need to watch that one.
It's fucking great. It's a very teen movie for sure, but like it's just so good. It has Noah Centineo. It has John Corbett in it. He's like the big guy in this. He plays the dad, and I don't want to give the whole movie away since I want you to watch it eventually.
Mm-hmm.
But he's basically a single dad to 3 girls, and have you seen the trailer for it?
I think so. Yeah.
She wrote this like love letter in secret to all her crushes, and they get out. They get mailed, secretly mailed by someone else.
Yeah.
And so she has to deal with the ramifications of that. Is basically the premise. But it's a really good, heartwarming story when you watch it. The other big one I watched from was Sierra Burgess' The Loser. That one.
That was a good one, yeah.
I mean, it has a Barb from Stranger Things.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
It's actually really like hard. You do these teen movies, they're actually making them like more like palatable for everybody else, and you can relate to them in some way, which I like. Even like as almost 30-year-old, I can relate to that stuff. But the other Netflix one I've seen was Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile, which is the movie about Ted Bundy. I think it came out in theaters too, didn't it?
Or was that I don't know Netflix? If it did or not. I only know that it's on Netflix. I don't know about any theater release for that, but...
Okay. Well, Zac Efron played Ted Bundy, and oh my God. You're more into the serial killer stuff, like the stuff behind that, more than I am. But holy cannoli, Ted Bundy, man. He could talk his way out of a parking ticket. He almost talked himself out of a murder. Like, he almost got away with it.
Yeah.
If you ever watch it, because I don't think you have yet. But
I haven't, yeah.
They have shown, like, side by side, because his murder trial was, like, the first one that was ever televised.
Yeah.
So they have shown side by side what the movie did and what the actual trial was, and it's, like, spot on.
Yeah, yeah.
And the title comes from the judge. The judge said this to him. Like when he was being convicted, when they were giving out the sentence. Mm-hmm. It was insane. Like, it just like, he was so charismatic. You would never think he was a murderer.
Yeah, yeah.
He did not play off crazy. He did not play the like weirdo that you would think was a serial killer.
Yeah.
Like he seemed like a normal guy, average Joe. But that was really good. If you haven't seen that, please watch that. That was like really fascinating, especially if you're interested in that kind of stuff. The Irishman, which was really, I don't think I watched like the first like 30 or 40 minutes with you, but I remember watching the rest of it with you.
It's hard that movie's hard to proposition to anybody who's not already like a Scorsese fan or like a fan of like mob movies in that time period, because it's like a nearly 4-hour movie. It's like 3.5 hours long. And isn't there a thing that like you can separate them into like episodes? No, what you're thinking of is what they did with Hateful Eight. They put Hateful Eight on Netflix, and it's the Tarantino director's cut, and they split it up into 3.5-hour long episodes. Well, no, I thought maybe there was like some article I saw like, oh, there's a way you can pause The Irishman and you can separate it. Yeah, like, I don't know. I just watched it straight through because it's... Oh, yeah, I know. I watched it with you. Yeah. Yeah, that if you're interested in like the JFK era, especially, yeah, and like what happened with like Nixon or like stuff like that. That stuff's really interesting. Yeah. I'm trying to remember all the stuff I saw on Netflix, but I think that's mostly it. Everything else was theaters. Mm-hmm. Spider-Man: Far From Home. Yeah. Was really good. I mean, that was the same thing we saw, which was Midsummer. Yeah. That was an experience. You've already talked about that, but that was an experience. Yeah, like, that movie fucked me up for a while. I just remember sitting in the theater with you. There wasn't like a whole lot of people in there with us, maybe like 15 other people. Yeah. Then when we saw Midsummer, and we just kept looking at each other. We're just like, what the actual fuck is happening?
Like your eyes, I remember looking over at you and your eyes were just like glazed. You're just like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
and you're not a person that typically reacts to stuff, especially to horror movies, because you're a monster. But you're just like, we're visibly reacting to this movie, and that's never the case with you. This like makes daytime scary. It's so freaky.
Yeah.
But like it's gorgeous though. Like you
Mm-hmm.
can't look. It's like one of those things. Like it's a horrible thing that's happened, but you can't look away.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my god, it's like a beautiful disaster. But like the main girl in that is really good too, Florence Pugh. I'll talk about her in another thing I watched this year with her in it. She's a really solid actress. I think she did a really good job in Midsummer.
Yeah.
The other thing we watched was Booksmart.
That's a good one. Yeah.
That was so good.
Yeah.
We didn't realize this, but she was I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she's the fat chick. She was nominated for a Golden Globe for this movie, which I didn't. That was the only thing that movie was ever nominated for.
Yeah.
But that movie is just so good. Do you want to talk about it at all?
No, I mean, I talked about it whenever Alex and I recorded the second episode. But yeah, it's really great. It's like a female Superbad.
Yes. It's like, and it also has Billie Lourd in it too. If you don't know who she is Carrie Fisher's daughter.
Yeah, Princess Leia's daughter.
Yep. Did you see the thing that came out about her that she actually, and that was it the Attack of the Clones scene where they did that flashback?
Yeah.
She actually played her, and they CGI'd Carrie Fisher's face.
Attack of the Clones?
Or there in the Rise of Skywalker there was like that flashback.
Yeah. I
don't think it was Attack of the Clones. I might be just bullshitting.
I was going to say, Princess Leia's not even in the first Star Wars trilogy.
Sorry. You can tell already I'm not a Star Wars nerd. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Yeah.
But there was like a flashback in that had, and it showed Leia when she was younger, and they said Billy got to film that as her. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, she was in Booksmart, and she was fantastic. She just played this really off the wall character.
Mm-hmm.
Like she was buck wild. Anyway, the other thing we watched was John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. Is that the whole title?
Yeah, John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. Yep.
That movie is just, those movies are just so good for shock value with the violence is in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that whole scene with was it like that gun cabinet or that weapon?
Yeah.
Like weaponry, like that whole it was like one of the opening scenes, and it just like, well, okay, we're getting off to a good start.
Yeah. Yep.
Keanu's not the greatest actor, like an actor in general, but he's a great action. He's good at stunts. He knows his way around stunts.
Mm-hmm.
But also ripped the puppy from the first one. I will never get over it.
Yeah. Yep.
I can't. If you know me, I also don't like watching animals die unnecessarily in movies. I don't give a shit when other people die, but when it's a fucking puppy, I will not watch it.
Yeah.
I can't. I know it's like the whole premise of these movies is about his dog, but I just can't.
Yeah.
I just can't.
Yep.
That's all I gotta say.
I'm the same way.
The other one we saw in the theaters that was really good was Dr. Sleep. That one, I'm also not the biggest horror movie fan, but you've had me come around on a lot of stuff with that. I'm still not a zombie movie fan, but I like horror movies that make you think. And The Shining was really good. You showed me that for the first time last year.
Yeah.
And it blew my mind how young Jack Nicholson was in that movie.
Yeah.
And I've only seen him as an old guy, so I guess that's what it is. Because I think he was in his late 30s when they made The Shining, or maybe early 40s even.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could be wrong, but Yeah, it was weird seeing him as a young guy and just him acting completely erratic and crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I just never knew. I knew that was like one of the most iconic things he's ever been in, but like I had never like have seen him as a young person, like a
Yeah.
young actor.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really jarring to me. But Doctor Sleep is also, of course, the sequel, and it's just great. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not as good as The Shining, of course, but I think it's a solid, very solid installment as a sequel.
Yeah.
Is that the only sequel there is to it, or is that it?
What, Doctor Sleep?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's the only sequel for it. Yep.
Okay. The other thing was Hobbs and Shaw, of course.
Oh God.
If you want to see Josh have basically the hugest man crush on The Rock, just have him watch every Fast and Furious movie that he's in.
Up through Fast 5 whenever he appears in the series, but still, it's God. That man, I love him so much.
You would die for him if he asked you to.
Probably.
I mean, he could ask you to do anything and you'd do it because he's The Rock.
Daddy's got to go to work.
That damn straight.
Yep.
Damn straight.
Yep.
I mean, and I know everybody thinks he's a cheesy actor, but like for real though, he's one of the most positive people on the internet.
Yep, he is.
You cannot put somebody down, even though they make a shit ton of money and they make really dumb movies sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
He's just a really wholesome and really cares about his fans.
Yeah.
Like, I think this was like a couple months ago I showed you. Mm-hmm. There was this cancer patient who loves Moana and loves Maui. And he had called I think he like FaceTimed him and he sang "You're Welcome" to him. Like, he's a busy man. Like, if you see all the shit he does in like a year, like with all, like he did Ballers last year. There was just like a whole list of stuff he did last year that he's like, how does he sleep, first of all?
Yeah.
But he took the time out of his day to FaceTime a sick boy with cancer to sing as Maui. Like, you cannot put a man down for that. You've got to respect that, in my opinion. But
yeah.
You don't have to like him as an actor, but to me, like, if you see other people that have that kind of privilege and influence and they do that to take out of their time, I think you should have some respect for that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just, you don't have to watch his movies. It's fine. But I think he deserves a little bit of like notoriety for that.
Yeah.
And plus, you love Moana. You could go on for hours about Moana.
Yeah, Moana, whenever we do our Disney stream, which should be tomorrow as of the time that this gets uploaded to the channel, but which will be Tuesday the 14th, which is Christa's birthday. We're gonna do our top 10 Disney movies, and Moana will definitely come up on that list for sure. For me.
It'll come up on mine too.
Yeah.
I just don't know I don't think you know where mine's ranked.
Yeah. Probably not.
And he's probably going to get upset with me.
Probably.
He's already gotten upset because I already showed him my list. He's already gotten upset with me about a certain movie. Mm-hmm. He called me a communist, so come after him, please.
Yeah, well,
Captain Marvel, that was really great.
Yeah, it did what it needed to do, but I've been pretty disconnected from the Marvel universe
I know. I mean, there's
for a while, and I just...
Because there's been so many, first of all, I understand, but like, for me, I like seeing female lead superheroes.
That's true.
Regardless,
like, it's good that they let Brie Larson do her thing, and
I mean, I'm not. Yeah. I think like I said in my action movie list, my favorite is definitely Wonder Woman, even though it's not Marvel.
Yeah.
I think that's been like the best female superhero movie that's come out in the past, like, I don't know, 10 years. I'm just throwing out a random number, so. But it's a solid movie. It's not like it was a bad movie. There's just so many now that's like, okay, it's kind of like you're getting fatigue. Like, okay, this is the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
But and we saw Endgame. That's my other one. Again, it's a great movie. It's like all your favorite superheroes in one place, and it was great.
It was a very fitting conclusion to a series that I don't love nearly as much as I did when it started 10 years ago. Alex and I talked about in episode 2 of the ANG cast, which go back and listen to that if you guys haven't already. it's not like our podcasts go in like any kind of sequential order or anything, but I want everybody to hear all these podcasts because I think we've had some pretty thoughtful discussions on them over the last, couple months that it's been around. But anyway, I think that he and I are both feeling a Marvel and Star Wars like we're getting tired of those franchises because of how much they're being shoved down our throats. And like I like all of them, but I don't have the same affinity for either series that I used to. I will say that I came around on The Last Jedi a lot more than I thought I would, and it's now in my top 5 Star Wars movies of all time, and I think it's because that movie did some fresh and interesting things.
And,
Whereas
yep.
like Endgame was just more Marvel stuff.
Check the boxes.
Yeah, that's pretty much what both those series have become, and I think Rise of Skywalker was a pretty big letdown because of how much I've grown to love The Last Jedi.
And I will say to this day how much I love Last Jedi the first time I saw it.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this, I'll pound this into people's heads until I go to the grave, but I never ever hated The Last Jedi. It was very different and I couldn't accept it.
And I'll clarify this for my sake. I'm not like overly critical of stuff unless it's like obviously really bad.
Yeah.
But for me, Star Wars is just something that I just thoroughly enjoy. It's not something I'm like super nerdy about and I'm going to sit there and dissect it like some people do.
Yeah.
And I will, the only thing I mean, the prequels aren't great, but like for these new ones, they're like a huge step up from what the original prequels were.
Well, here's the thing. The original trilogy is pretty untouchable. Like,
I agree. I absolutely agree.
A New Hope is a little bit rough around the edges. Empire's the best Star Wars movie. Return of the Jedi is fine. It's good. But I think the original prequel series that started in 1999 with The Phantom Menace, I think it gets a bad rap. Alex and I talked about that. I think The Phantom Menace is a really fun movie. And
I'm not saying they're bad.
I think Attack of the Clones is a genuinely bad movie, and it does not hold up still to this day, but I watched them all from start to finish on Disney Plus leading up to Rise of Skywalker, and Rise of Skywalker had moments where it felt bad to me in the way that Attack of the Clones feels bad to me.
Okay. I mean, I don't think it's nearly as bad as Attack of the Clones.
No, it's not, and none of them are bad movies. Like, I should clarify that. Attack of the Clones, it's a bad movie, but it's still like a serviceable Star Wars movie, if that makes any sense. But Rise of Skywalker was disappointing because they just, I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts about that. I could probably do a whole podcast about Rise of Skywalker, but...
Yeah, I agree. I liked Jedi better, but I still enjoyed Rise of Skywalker. I think it was...
It's my least favorite of the new trilogy for sure. Like,
but doesn't make it bad either.
No, I would say Force. I would rank them like almost in the order that they came out. Force Awakens was the best, followed by Last Jedi, followed by Rise of Skywalker. There's days where you catch me on a good day, I might say The Last Jedi is the best of this new trilogy.
Also, we had a really great experience with the first one
in theaters. People actually got into it. I think. It's the same thing that Alex and I are going through. There's like a level of, like, we're worn out on Star Wars, and I think that people are starting to feel that.
Well, also when that first one came out, it had been how long? Like 10 years?
Yeah.
Or whatever. And I think it was just more, you weren't fatigued from it. We're like, oh, okay, this is it coming back again,
Mm-hmm.
And now we've had like, then there was like Solo, there was Rogue One, which Rogue One is good.
Yeah, but, Rogue One's great. It's in my top 5.
Oh yeah, but now that they're all coming out in like so many at a time, it's just like, okay, I'm getting a little bored.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like too much. It's like oversaturation. Hollywood knows that they'll make money off of it, so they just oversaturate, and you're just like, oh cool, fuck this.
Yeah, it's very rare that you see like an original movie that's not based off of something, or that's not a sequel or a prequel or a remake or a reboot. And to me, that's why I love movies like Midsummer that we saw last year and Knives Out. And they were original movies, not based on anything really. And that's why those movies stood out to me. And The Lighthouse, the other movies that made my top 5 were all pretty original, movies.
I still won't watch that. He's trying to get me to watch Lighthouse, and I just, after how he's described it to me, I'm just like, no, I'm good.
If you could sit through Midsummer, Lighthouse isn't nearly as unpleasant, but it's
well,
up there.
the way you described that mermaid scene, I just want no part of it.
Yeah, the director's a real fucking weirdo from the sounds of it, and he also directed The Witch, which is basically the only movie that A24 has ever put out that I did not like because I thought that movie was like watching paint dry. It was effective
Hmm.
in feeling like that era, but it was ineffective as a horror movie. It didn't make me feel uncomfortable in the way that Hereditary did, or Midsummer especially did. And
It,
so it's
we,
weird to me that this
yeah,
is the Lighthouse director. That's only his second movie. Like, to me, he knocked it out of the park with the Lighthouse, but I was worried that I wasn't going to like it because of how I didn't like The Witch.
yeah, yeah.
But I digress. Yeah, I will pay to go see anything that A24 as a studio puts out because they just put out the most like consistently good stuff. Like Uncut Gems was an A24 movie too, and it's Adam Sandler at his best. Honestly, like the man can actually
I mean,
act when he's not.
he's
Yeah,
kind of having like a mini renaissance, which I like because
kind of. Yeah, he's like, if he actually wins like an award for this, I can pretty much like say all my actors that I've liked throughout the years have won. Like when Leo won, I was happy, but it would be really nice to see
that
Adam
was
win
the
too.
most satisfying thing to ever see.
Yeah, to finally see him win one. Because I mean, I'm not comparing Adam Sandler to Leonardo DiCaprio, but I'm saying there's some actors that I watch that do these dramatic and comedic performance like mixes throughout their career, and they don't ever really get rewarded for doing that. And I mean, I know Adam Sandler's done mostly like dumb comedy movies his entire life, but
But he's capable.
people forget that he's been in other dramas before that. Like he was in Reign Over Me, which is the movie with Don
Oh,
Cheadle
I don't.
about, it was about
Okay.
9/11. Like it took place around the
Oh,
time, it's like a 9/11 movie. Like I think it was a guy with like PTSD from 9/11 or something.
you know when you tell me about 9/11, you made me think of Remember Me, that
Yeah,
movie.
it's not Remember Me. But I think
That
honestly now looking back on it, because Robert Pattinson is a fucking fantastic actor now, and it turns out all we had to do as a society was lead him away from the Twilight franchise to
not
make
make him
turn
the
him in,
vampire.
and not make him a vampire. But no, really, Remember Me I think was his first step in the right direction, because Remember Me is actually a pretty solid drama, and ever since then it's
Yeah,
just been getting better and better for him as an actor, at least as somebody who watches his acting.
and he was great as Cedric Diggory. Let's not forget
That's true.
Cedric.
He wasn't, but his character in that movie, like they kind of downplayed him a lot. Like I think he had a lot
I
bigger
know. I
role in the
think
book.
I will also say. I mean, I have never read the book, so roast me.
Yeah.
But in the movies, Hufflepuff is so underrepresented,
Well,
and
as
I
soon as
hate
you
it.
get past the fourth movie, they stop caring about the other houses entirely. It's just all about Gryffindors and Slytherins.
I understand that, and I get like you have. There's only so much a movie can do, but
Yeah.
like there's four freaking houses.
Yeah.
Represent them.
Think
Like
about how bad
everybody.
Ravenclaws feel because they're even more underrepresented than
That's very
Hufflepuffs
true.
are.
That's very true. That's fair. That's fair. But I think equal representation.
Yeah.
Because Hufflepuffs are more interesting than people think. Because the people classify Hufflepuffs as like the house that you put people in that don't really have another house.
I don't think that's true.
But that's what it's been known. That's like its reputation.
Well, no, I'm just saying I think it's the reputation it's gotten, but I don't think it's accurate. I think that if anything, it's not a house that you put people in that don't belong anywhere else. It's for people that feel like they don't belong in another house. For
True.
one thing.
That's
And I think that it's because Hufflepuff might kind of be a mix of the other three houses too, put into one.
and but Hufflepuffs are known for being loyal and like
Which that's a
sturdy.
Gryffindor. That's a Gryffindor trait right there.
But they're very sturdy. They're hardworking. But it's like they're not. It's like they don't have a strong. They're not like they're not brave, so they're not clearly Gryffindor. But they have a little bit of it, and they're not clearly ambitious, but they have goals.
Yeah.
Or like they're smart, but they're not like super like genius smart like a Ravenclaw. So I guess you're right. Makes sense, but like at the same time, it's like Hufflepuff is probably one of the best houses, and J.K. Rowling has said Hufflepuff is the house that she would wish she was in.
Yeah. Well,
I
I've got some problems with her now as a
Yeah,
person,
she
which is
did a
very
bad
unfortunate.
thing. She did a bad thing.
This is the truest example of something from my childhood being ruined. It's not as if I can't enjoy the Harry Potter books and movies now, because that'd be asinine to say so. But as an
Yes,
author now,
yes.
she said some really fucking terrible things about trans people, and
I don't know if I don't think she did it intentionally, but she didn't check before she posted that. And
I
think
get the feeling that it's not something that she would apologize for, even if she knew she was in the wrong for doing it. And I also think she'd probably use the defenses like, oh, well, a lot of British people feel this way too.
It's a shitty thing to say.
It's absolutely, yeah.
Because you shouldn't characterize people.
No.
Don't generalize. It's dangerous. But anyway, moving on. My other movie I thoroughly enjoyed was Pokemon Detective Pikachu. You've talked about it, but like, I didn't grow up with Pokemon. I was exposed to it very mildly with like around my friends that were allowed to have it. It's not like I wasn't allowed. It's just that I didn't have a lot growing up, and there was just certain things that, you know, my parents just didn't expose me to, which is fine.
Yeah.
And plus, I didn't have cable. That was a big hindrance in a lot of things that like I didn't watch or see or listen to as a kid. So, and gesundheit.
Thank you.
But when Pokemon Go, I mean, we didn't start it when it first came out, but like we got into it like a couple years ago, and we've had like on and off times where we've been really into it, not into it, and we've kind of gotten back into it again. And it made me like really feel like take me back to my childhood where I wish I would have had this. And so like this movie was just a good like check the boxes off of nostalgia stuff.
Yeah.
And of course my favorite is Pikachu, and I can do a Pikachu voice, but I won't do that right now.
Yeah.
But it freaks him out because it's uncannily good.
It is pretty good, yeah.
So, but yeah, Ryan Reynolds, of course, is a great actor, and I'll watch anything he's in pretty much. He's just a good guy too. He's done a lot of. He's a really upstanding guy, and he's really funny.
For sure.
So you really can't complain in that aspect. It was just weird because when you see Pikachu, you don't expect him to have that kind of voice.
Oh yeah.
But it works. It definitely. I mean, it's not like an Oscar-winning movie, but it's like it's a good feel-good movie for especially if you love Pokemon growing up.
Yeah.
You know, it's definitely worth watching at least. Of course, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. What a movie! What a movie!
Some might say my second favorite movie of the year.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say your second favorite Tarantino. Is it your second favorite?
Second
Tarantino?
favorite movie of last year, and my second favorite Tarantino movie overall, just behind
You're
Pulp
putting
Fiction.
it above Inglourious Bastards.
Yep, I am.
That's.
I absolutely adore Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I fucking loved it.
It's definitely my second, but
over time,
Inglourious
I'm not even exaggerating when I say over time, it might grow to be my favorite Tarantino movie. It might
over
overtake
Pulp Fiction.
it might overtake Pulp Fiction because
that's big.
I've seen it twice now. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I've probably seen Pulp Fiction like 10 times, but I've seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood twice now, and I enjoyed it even more the second time than I did the first time. And if that trend continues, then it's just going to keep getting better.
Quentin Tarantino's a hell of a man too.
He's said and done some weird shit in the past, and he's got some questionable opinions about things sometimes, and he's pretty eccentric as a person. But he's the
nice thing. The thing I like about him, in a certain way, in certain ways, I'm not saying in every way, but he's just unapologetic in who he is. Like he doesn't give a fuck how he shows off to people. Like this is who I am. Take it or leave it. Yeah. He doesn't give a shit, and I like that about him in a certain way because it's like, oh yeah, that's confidence.
Yeah.
But he won for best screenplay, which at the Golden Globes, which was great. His speech was really interesting. If you watch the Golden Globes, his speech was just very out all over the place.
It was for sure.
Apparently, he's going to be a first-time dad, and he's how old? He's gotta be in his 50s, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So good on him. But also Brad Pitt won for Best Supporting Actor. And I think those are the only two things that won, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so, too. I think that they're going to win something at the Oscars for them, though, for sure.
Oh, I think they will, too. He was also nominated for Best Director, but that went to Sam Mendes for 1917.
Which, now that I've seen 1917, was a fantastic movie. Probably my top 5, maybe even top 3 war movies I've ever seen.
That's another one I haven't seen that I want to see. because I like history, so of course it's up my alley. I just didn't get the chance to go see it with him, which is
Learning
fine. But
too that Sam Mendes the story was about his grandfather. 1917 was about
yeah,
his grandfather.
I like
So
that. I like that personal touch a lot.
yeah, yep,
It also has the kid from Game of Thrones who played Tommen.
yeah, yeah,
Older Tommen, not younger Tommen, but older Tommen.
yeah.
Because those were two separate actors, believe it or not, because they did so many time jumps in that show.
I would talk more about Tommen's role in 1917, but talking about what ends up happening to him would be a major spoiler, and that movie just came out, so I'm not going to talk about it yet.
Sure. Zombieland 2, which was thoroughly enjoyable.
Alex and I talked about that. They did just about as much with that as a sequel as you could hope for.
But it was solid.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I did too.
The Weed and Abigail Breslin storyline was a little...
it was whatever, but...
It was fine. But I liked how much Tallahassee has affection for her, which I love that part of it. Like, it's like he sees her as his daughter. Because, like, if you remember from the first one, he lost his son. Like, he was playing off like he was his dog the whole time.
Yeah.
And you find out it was actually his kid, and that's just like, oh my God. Like... It's a comedy movie, but when you find that out about that in the story, you're just like, oh man, you actually feel something for him because he's kind of a dick.
Yeah.
But when you find that out about him, you're just like, oh man, he does have, the way he is. But like you can tell that like translates over now that he has, Little Rock. Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to remember their names, but how much affection he has for her as his like surrogate daughter that he lost his son. So I thought I liked that part of it. I liked of course they added like a lot of new actors to this, like what's his name from oh my gosh, Thomas Middleditch. The other Wilson brother, not Owen, who's
Luke
the other
Wilson.
Luke Wilson.
Yeah.
Rosario Dawson. There's other people, and I just can't think of it. But of course, I like that part of it. I liked Madison. I know people think she was an airhead. I liked her though. She was really enjoyable.
Yeah.
I think she was great.
Yeah.
But it was so good. It was just like a solid sequel that you wanted. It didn't do anything like amazing or like new, but it was a solid sequel.
Yeah.
And I'm not a zombie movie person, so for me to go watch this in theaters and enjoy it,
says a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, you can hear the enthusiasm in his voice, as you can tell.
I love zombie movies, and she won't ever watch them with me.
Oh, there you go. There it is.
Yeah.
I'll watch some now. It's just like some of like the one I really have a hard time watching is the new Dawn of the Dead. Like the remake of that one.
Yeah.
That one's really rough for me. That one's one of the more really actually horrifying zombie movies, in my opinion.
I feel like now you've seen it enough times, you should just know what's coming.
I still can't do the baby scene.
Yeah.
That with Mekhi Phifer, man. That's a rough one.
Yeah.
But anywho, Ready or Not was a good one. And again, another horror movie that I actually enjoyed. I think I like it was like this. It's almost like it was not. It's not good. It's not as good as Knives Out was, but it's like it's a good like not whodunit, but just like a good classic horror movie that did everything right. Like it was almost like a hide and seek. I mean, obviously it's called Ready or Not, but like the premise of it is this girl gets married into this really wealthy family because I think they made board games. They got really famous for their board games. And every time someone gets married into the family, they have to play a board game. And there's like this little, I don't know if it's like a little machine or whatever that they have that picks the game or whatever. And if there's this one game that gets picked called a hide and seek, they basically have to kill the person that married into the family. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
And of course she picks that card. So
yeah.
I think the gnarliest scene is that girl in the dumbwaiter.
Oh yeah.
I think that's like the most. I mean, it gets pretty bloody at the end. Like, if I won't spoil it, but like at the very end, like the last 5 minutes, you're just like, what the actual fuck? It just took a really weird turn, honestly. But yeah, that dumb waiter scene was really gnarly.
Oh yeah.
But it's a really good movie, and I think it's another girl in a leading role like that. I like seeing those kind of movies. And then of course, Knives Out, and we could go on and on about Knives Out.
Oh yeah.
We don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it yet, but holy shit, that's so fucking good.
Really, really good.
I mean, a really good cast too. Like, everything was just perfectly done. It's like a 10 out of 10, or if you could go higher. Like, it's just like a perfect whodunit movie, but like executed perfectly, and it also does a little bit of social commentary that it's not like super like preachy, but it hits right. It hits in all in the right places. Like, of course, Jamie Lee Curtis, the original Scream Queen, duh. And then Daniel Craig, you had Lakeith Stanfield. That movie was nominated for Best Director, and it was nominated for the girl that played the main girl, Anna something, I think her name is. She was nominated, but she didn't win. And then I think it was nominated for something else, maybe screenplay, but I could be wrong. But you can't beat out Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But Rian Johnson did a great job. He gets a lot of shit for Jedi, and I loved Last Jedi personally, and he did a really great job with Knives Out. He deserves all the praise he gets. He deserves it. He did such a great job. It's just so well executed of a movie. And I remember us walking out of the theater just like, this is such a great movie. Like, if people need to see this movie.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty accessible movie. It's not like a hard to understand movie. It's not like overly gory.
No.
In any way. I mean, we're not picky about like content in movies as long as it's not like obviously bad. But like, most people can watch this. Like, it's just a well executed movie that is not super offensive in any way. That would, I just really enjoyed it. But that's, I think, a movie that you could recommend to anyone, because I think it's an accessible movie to everyone. And I like that about that movie a lot. I only got a couple more movies, so we already talked about Skywalker. We don't need to go on about that for another 10 hours. But the last two movies that I can remember that I saw this year was Us, which was great too. It's not as good as Get Out, but Us is a really good installment. Jordan Peele is a great writer, turns out. Jordan Peele is a great director, it turns out. Turns out he loves horror movies.
Yeah.
And he's good at making horror movies. If you haven't seen those two movies, do yourself a favor and watch them, because even if you don't like horror, these two movies say a lot about our current society in America today. And it's definitely a necessity to watch, especially, and it's also important to support art that is made by people that have been suppressed in this country, that make great art and deserve to be noticed. And Jordan Peele deserves all the recognition he gets. And I was so proud of him for winning the Oscar last year for writing that movie, for Get Out.
Definitely.
That was just the biggest surprise. Josh and I were like, he's not gonna win. Like, oh shit, he actually won. Yeah. Like, that was like our big surprise, and we were just so happy for him because he deserves it. And he's such a grateful person too. He's like, to anybody who bought a ticket for this movie, you deserve some of the recognition too, because if this movie wouldn't have gotten the recognition it got for like all the ticket sales it had, he probably wouldn't have been nominated. It probably wouldn't have gotten the recognition that it got. So well done. Well done.
Yeah.
I think people don't like Us as much because Us's message is not as clear and is in your face as Get Out's was. Like, Get Out was like really obvious what it was about, like, and what it was trying to say, and Us was just a little bit more obscure. You had to really think about it. You have to sit there and really stew on it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the trailer did more of like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
than anything. I think that trailer is insane for that movie. Like, that really pulls you in. Also, Elizabeth Moss is in that movie too, and it was really good. She did a really good job, even though she died really quick.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have never seen Us or Get Out, watch those immediately if you have time, because they're great. And the last movie that I saw, it was actually the most recent that I saw, was Little Women. I went to see that with my mom. Josh went to see Uncut Gems that day, so that's why I haven't seen Uncut Gems. But if you like Greta Gerwig, this is more Greta Gerwig at her finest. She did a great job directing this movie, and she got snubbed so hard she did not get nominated for any Golden Globes this year. And it really upset me because this is, I mean, I haven't seen all of Lady Bird, but if you loved Lady Bird, you will love Little Women. Of course, if you don't know what Little Women is, it's about the book. But and also, if you like the 1994 version with Winona Ryder, you will love this one just as much. It had Saoirse Ronan. It had Laura Dern, Florence Pugh from Midsommar. What's her? I can't remember her name off the top of my head. Meryl Streep was in it, and then Bob Odenkirk was in it. He wasn't in it that much, but he played their dad. But it's a really good. If you don't know the story at all, I don't want to give too much of it away, but it's such a good story about. It's set like in the Civil War times, which of course that's your favorite time in history. We can talk about that. Mm-hmm. But it's set in the Civil War in New England. They live in Connecticut, and their dad is at war, and so it's just they call Mom Marmee, and their four daughters, and Joe is a writer. I mean, it's just like all the sisters and what role they play. Oh, Emma Watson was in it too. Sorry about that. Apologies to Hermione. But she was in it. She plays Meg. She's the oldest, and then Saoirse Ronan plays Jo, and then I can't remember the girl's name that plays Beth, and then Florence Pugh plays the youngest sister, Amy, and then Meryl Streep plays the rich aunt, Aunt March. And it's just about this great story about women pulling their resources together and going through society, and how they make their marks in the world as women, and how women drastically affect our lives, and how much influence they had back then. Even though it wasn't that much, they still made their mark. Mm-hmm. And anytime there's a war too, women have to really pull their shit together, because back then women cannot go to war. You cannot go to the front lines and fight along the men, even if you really wanted to. Mm-hmm. And I like that the story doesn't even focus. The men are the supporting characters in this movie. They're not the main focus, which I really, really enjoy. And it's just a good movie in general. And it's just a really great, empowering story of how women, even though have been repressed for a long time, we still have a voice, and we make our voice heard no matter how hard it is. And I like that. Like, that still continues on today. It's so relevant. I love it. And it's beautifully shot, beautifully directed. And it's just a solid movie. Mm-hmm. I've been trying to get him to watch the 94 version because he's never seen it. Have you even read the book before?
No, I haven't.
I haven't read the book either, so I can't say too much, but I just love the story. But I think the 94 version is just as good. I still can't decide which one is better because they're kind of like shot the same. Mm-hmm. Like, how like different interpretation of books, they take it a different way. Like, sometimes they'll omit parts, and sometimes they'll, The only difference with the 94 version and this new version is that this new version, it's basically the same story. Like, it's shot almost the same as the 94 version. It's just shot in different out of order. Like the story's out of order. As in the 94 version, it's like very symmetrical. Like it's chronological, I should say. But Greta Gerwig is just such a great director, and she deserves a lot of recognition for.
Yeah.
Has she done anything else besides Lady Bird?
I'm not sure, honestly.
It just blows my mind she was not nominated. And the only nomination that Little Woman has gotten is Saoirse Ronan.
Yeah.
I think, which is really sad. Because Florence Pugh did so good too as Amy. She's a really good actress, turns out. I started following Florence Pugh on Instagram the other day, and she is delightful. Literally on her, I know this is going off tangent a little bit, but on her Insta stories the other night, she was talking about the process that she was trying to make peanut butter ice cream. And it was really adorable how she was just talking about, I didn't know she was British too, so she's got a really thick British accent. And she was just talking about the process of her making peanut butter ice cream and how difficult it was. She's like, I didn't realize I was making peanut butter ice cream from a 5-star Michelin recipe, so fuck me, I guess. But she's a delight. And Laura Dern is a great actress too. I love her. But yeah, those are the movies that I saw this year.
Well, we are going to take a short break here, and when we come back, we are going to cover the rest of Christa's list. So stay tuned. Okay, we are back for Christa's final 2 lists of the podcast. What's the next one you want to cover?
It's a pretty short one. I just have a little bit of music that I wanted to go over. It's not by albums, because I didn't listen to like a whole lot of albums this year. But there's just like some certain songs that came out this year, and then of course we went to a few concerts together. But the only album I will mention is Lover by Taylor Swift. I mean, it's not like, it's a pretty solid album, but it's not like amazing, I should say. But I really like Paper Rings. I like the song Lover. You Need to Calm Down. I mean, those are just probably the best ones out of it. But that was a really good album. And Halsey, the song Graveyard. That's just a great song. Plus, Halsey's amazing. I love her. Anything by Lizzo that came out this year. Lizzo's a fucking queen. And she deserves every good thing that comes her way. Another artist I really enjoyed this year was Billie Eilish. My favorite song by her is Bury a Friend. I looked into that song a little bit, and it's basically about depression. And it's like, a lot of her songs are about mental health, which is, I really, it's a topic that needs talked about more. And and she's only 18 and she's writing music like this. Like, can you imagine what in 10 years her music's going to be like? It's going to be amazing, even more amazing than it is now.
Yeah.
Another artist that you kind of got me into, because you and Alex worship the ground he walks on, is Post Malone. I don't love him nearly as much as you and Alex do, but like, he's thoroughly enjoyable. I think he's a cool dude. He's just living his life. He's just doing his thing. And you can't complain about people that are doing that. He's living his dream. He was literally homeless, and now he's making millions because of his talent.
He's fantastic.
You can't sniff at that. You can't scoff at that. Like, that's amazing. And he's just got a really cool personality. He has a TikTok, and whenever we find a TikTok of his, we're just like, yep, we have to like that one because he's great. Yeah. He's cool. Like, there's a TikTok of him holding a baby, holding a fan's baby, and he was just smiling, and the baby was smiling back, and like, this is just the most wholesome thing on the internet right now. But Posty's a great guy. I have nothing against the man. I don't love him, but I enjoy some of his music. And because also I have to listen to it because you're listening to it 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
But Post Malone's great. I don't think they had anything that came out this year, but I thoroughly enjoyed the 1975. I mentioned in my top bands list that they like one of my favorite bands.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to a lot of their music this year, and it's just some of the most relaxing music. They just their songs are just super chill, and it feels like old 80s rock, like synth rock and stuff like that. It has that like not Rush, but like, you know what I'm trying to say, like old 80s chill like rock and synth music. It just sounds really chill. I love it. It's a great if you're driving on a road trip at night, put on the 1975 because it's the best thing ever. It's the best experience. Mm-hmm. But some of the concerts we went to with state champs back in March, and of course I think it was like that was our 5th time seeing them, or 6th time. Was it 5th or 6th? I got sick at that concert, but it did not take away my experience because that's like my favorite band. I love State Champs. And they're a great live band too. But the other concert, I only went to 3 this year, surprisingly. It felt like more because I think you went to a lot more than me.
Yeah.
But the only other 2 concerts that I went to this year was the Real Friends concert. Mm-hmm. And that was a lot of fun. Very claustrophobic, but a lot of fun. And then the Bad Religion concert in the Lawrence Arms. Mm-hmm. Was there somebody else there?
No, it was just those 2.
Really? Okay.
Nope, it was just those 2.
That band, that concert was wild.
Yeah.
I've been to I've been to other like pop punk shows, and I've seen a lot of mosh pits, but the mosh pits for Bad Religion and Lawrence Arms was insane. Mm-hmm. Like very violent.
Yeah.
Like I've seen a lot of mosh pits, but this one to me stands out because it was just so crazy. It was just so like physical. But that was a fun concert. The only other things that I'll mention in my music, which I'll keep it quick, was Keep Flying. That Keep Flying is a great band. Mm-hmm. They're like really energetic. They remind me of we saw them at Warped Tour and we met them.
Less Than Jake.
They remind me a lot of Less Than Jake. Mm-hmm. But they're just very upbeat, very happy. Love what they do. You can't like not like that. When you have an energy like that in a concert, it's just infectious, and I like that about them. Mm-hmm. And then, I mean, music is a thing also too that helps you get through shitty times in your life. And I've made 2 playlists this year on our Spotify account that just help me really calm down and get me through shit. And I made my chill playlist, which is like a playlist that doesn't have like super upbeat songs. It's kind of just like not background music, but it's just really chill, kind of EDM centered music. But it's just really nice and helps me focus and helps me get shit done. And then my other one is my friendship breakup playlist. I won't get into that one because it's personal, but that's helped me get through another shitty time in my life. But that's pretty much my music this year. But my biggest things this year were movies and TV shows. But my TV shows this year, I'll go through some of them pretty quickly. I watched the newest season of The Great British Bake Off, which if you also need something to relax to or have something on in the background, the show is fucking great for that. It's not like your typical American reality show where everybody's mad at each other and yelling at each other and fighting each other. The show is just like they're always encouraging to each other. And even if they have a criticism, they're like, oh yeah, it wasn't that bad. You know, it was actually okay.
Yeah.
But it was just a little, underbaked or a little overbaked,
Yeah.
They're just so nice. They're so nice to each other.
Yeah.
And it's the best word to describe the show is delightful.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just delightful. They've changed hosts over the seasons, and I know you're not the biggest fan of them, but I think they're okay.
Yeah.
I know how much you like Mel and Sue. They're great. They're great. I can't remember the 2 new host now. It's a man and a woman. The man has been in other stuff. He's been in other British TV shows, apparently. He's pretty well known in Britain, and I don't know where the woman comes from, but I think they're great. But the other show we watched was Chernobyl. We've already talked about that. That show is just horrifying, but it's great. It's definitely necessary to watch. The next show is Letterkenny. Oh my God, that show's great. It's probably one of the greatest shows that I've seen this year. Letterkenny. It's set. It's not a real town in Canada. It's apparently like a paper town or something like that. Like it's a town that they. Okay, it used to be a town or something. I can't remember. There's like a story behind it, but it's not an actual city that is in Canada now. But if you're looking for a new comedy to watch and you have Hulu, please watch this and do yourself a favor. It's great. The writing is fantastic. The acting is fantastic. And you will love Wayne. Wayne is my favorite character. But it's set in like, it's like rural, but it's not Hilljack in an annoying way. Like you can get past it. It's not annoying. It's actually really delightful. The writing's just the best part of that. Yeah. But anyway, 13 Reasons Why, the second season. If you've seen the first season, the second season's not as good. I think, honestly, it should have ended at season 1. I think it was much more effective as a story.
That's why I kind of refuse to watch the second season of the show or anything else they make, because it wasn't bad by any means. But you said it perfectly. That show should have ended when they got to the message of the show.
Yeah.
And to keep it going feels very exploitive in a way that I don't want any part of.
Well, the second season is basically about the trial.
Yeah.
Because her mom wants to convict the people that bullied her and wants to convict the man who raped her, the kid who raped her. And it's effective still, but like you said, it should have stopped.
Yeah.
And I think they've already talked about making a season 3, which I think is ridiculous. I don't think they should. But I digress. Stranger Things season 3, you've already talked about that. It's great. Just great. I would rank them like how you ranked them, 1, 3, 2. I think it's just, I think Winona Ryder has had a great renaissance back into Hollywood.
Yeah.
She does a very solid job as the mom, as the worried mom. I like Hopper. I mean, I like 11. I mean, it's just a really good story. It's a really good show, really good sci-fi show. Another show, a lot of these were from Netflix, believe it or not. This was actually a British show. It's called Sex Education. It sounds weird and off the wall, and it kind of is. But it's about this teenage kid. His mom is a sex therapist. So you can imagine the things he sees and hears.
Yeah.
But it's actually a really heartwarming story. I won't go into it too much because I think you should just watch it and experience it for yourself. But it's a really good story about teens discovering who they are and like who they're attracted to, and finding out who they are in the world. And like with him, it's like, how do you live in a world where your mom is a sex therapist, and how do you not get bullied for it every day? Because some of her clients are like his friends' parents and stuff, and it's like kind of weird and awkward, and it's really funny in that way.
Yeah.
But it's a really good show. And like I've said before, I'm a history nerd, so there's like a lot of history shows I've watched.
Yeah.
One of them being The Last Tsars, which is about Nicholas II, who was like the last Tsar of Russia. And I mean, if you've seen Anastasia, that's her family. That's what this show is about. But it actually tells the actual accurate story of what happened. It's kind of weird. It's kind of like half documentary and half drama. Like it's acted out. Like there's full on scenes, but it's like there's still like documentary segments where they have like historians talk. It's kind of weird. And It was good. I liked it. I mean, I'll watch anything with that about that topic because that's like one of my favorite times in history.
Yeah.
But another show that we both enjoy that everybody should watch is Queer Eye.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You'll hear me talk about them, but like I call them my dads because they are like some of the best supporting people that you could ever watch on a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jonathan's like the cheerleader that you've always needed in your life. Like, you can do this. You are powerful and you can do anything you want to do and you look great doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tan, you know, he can make you look great. I mean, I just call them my dads because I think they're just like, they would be such a supporting role in your life.
Yeah.
And they're just so wholesome. They're just so wholesome. Like, I can't say anything else about them. If you have never watched Queer Eye, do it. Another show that has been like a really big part of my year was called Atypical.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard me talk about this a couple times. It's about this kid who's on the autism spectrum, and Jennifer Jason Leigh's in it. She plays his mom, and it also has the girl from Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants played Bailey, the little girl that was with Tibby.
Yeah.
She's in this show and she plays his girlfriend because you don't think autistic people can have significant others, but he's not. But he's like a functioning autistic in a way. I don't want to. I'm not. I don't know how to word this stuff. So if I say things incorrectly about the autism spectrum, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. But he's like a very high functioning autistic, but he's still enough on the spectrum where it affects his daily life. But it's a really good show. I mean, it's only 20-minute episodes, and there's only been 3 seasons. And it's so good. And he has an older sister who is neurotypical, and she's kind of like his protector. Like, she feels like she has to defend him at all times because he just sometimes will have a freak out. Mm-hmm. And it's just a really good show about how he navigates life as a teenager in high school. And there's a whole episode about him because when you're an autistic person, you get sensory overload really quickly. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, as a high schooler, prom is part of your experience, and, you know, loud music and a lot of people talking and, you know, all that kind of stuff that would probably set him off. Right. So there's an episode where his girlfriend sets up where everybody has headphones on, and that's how they listen to the music, so he's not overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just like so cool to see that represented in TV. So it's just a really good show if you ever get the chance to watch it. It's not that long. I think there's only 10 episodes a season, and they're only like 20 minutes long. So mm-hmm. It's a really good show. But Dairy Girls was another one I watched. That's set in Ireland. If you don't like Irish accents or have a hard time understanding it, you might have a hard time watching this. But it's just a fucking delight. It's one of my best shows from this year. I would probably put this in my top 10 if I had ranked them because it's just so delightful. It has one of the actors from Game of Thrones in it as the grandpa, and he's a fucking delight too. But it's these teenagers that live in Derry, Ireland. Derry's the nickname for the town, but it's a longer name. But it's just so funny. Like, I literally have died laughing every time I watch an episode of that show. Mm-hmm. I know it's not a show that you would normally watch, but I would love to see you watch it because it's just so great. Mm-hmm. And believe it or not, the cast of that show, I was showing him the other night, they were on Bake Off. They mm-hmm. had a special with them on Bake Off. I think it was like as a Christmas special or something. Mm-hmm. And I still need to see that. I don't know when it's coming to Netflix, but it looks hilarious. But another show I watch is another history show. It's called Versailles. Mm-hmm. As you can gather from the title, it's about France and the building of Versailles. It's not, I don't know how historically accurate it is because you know how those shows are. It's not like a documentary, so of course they're not going to get everything right. Mm-hmm. But it's about King Louis XIV, who built Versailles, and like the process that went into building Versailles. And I think they probably did take some dramatic liberties, but it mainly focused on him and his little brother, like the relationship between them. But it was a good show. I don't need to go in too far into it because I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, and I know not everybody's into history stuff like I am. But if you are into history, it's a good show. And my favorite time in history is another show that I watch. Is called Turn. Now, this is a show I think you would like to watch, babe. It's about a Revolutionary War. I almost said Civil War.
I wish there was a show about the Civil War besides Ken Burns' documentary.
There isn't any other ones?
Let me look it up real quick. As far as I know, there was a Civil War movie that was made.
I mean, there's a lot of Civil War movies.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like specifically, like explicitly about the Civil War. There was one called like The Blue and Gray or something.
Oh.
But I don't know how many actual Civil War movies there are. So let me look into it here, but go on.
But Turn is about Washington's spies. There was a spy ring he had during the Revolutionary War. And it's about a cabbage farmer named Abe Woodhull. He was a real person. He was a real spy. But how he got roped into this spy thing was really crazy. Basically, he got pulled into being a spy from a bar fight. And his father is a magistrate, which is basically a judge. And he's kind of like a big hoity-toity of the town. Like he's... they call a loyalist is what they called people that were on the British side in America. His family was known for being a loyalist supporter. So for him to be a spy for Washington was crazy. But I haven't looked into the full history behind it, but it's a solid show. I mean, I enjoyed it because I'm a history nerd and I love it. But it's very, and they showed George Washington, and the guy, whoever they got to play George Washington, did a really great job because he looks exactly like him. And then of course we don't know what those people sounded like because, technology, 18th century technology was non-existent.
So I looked into it. As far as shows, there's really nothing besides besides documentaries, but movies, there's Lincoln, of course. There's Free State of Jones, which is the Matthew McConaughey movie.
And then the Denzel Washington one, right?
Yeah, I can't remember what that one's called. Glory, looks like.
Yeah.
And then Gone with the Wind is technically Civil War. A lot of these are mostly Civil War era movies. They're not exactly... So the one I was thinking of, I don't know why I thought it was called Blue and Gray, but it's called Gettysburg. And it has Jeff Daniels in it. It's from 1993. But it's literally like a Civil War movie, like not just time period, but like an actual Civil War movie. And then recently I put in codes for digital movies into our digital library thing that me and my friends share, and it offered me a free movie. And one of those movies is a movie from 2017 called The Beguiled that has Nicole Kidman and Kirsten Dunst in it, and it's apparently a Civil War movie, but it has like a 6 out of 10, like a 5 or a 6 out of 10, so it seems like it might be okay. But like I literally got this movie for free because I've basically picked every other free movie that they've given me out of this list.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, I don't know anything about this, but it's a free movie, so I'll take it. And so I'm actually kind of curious to see it now and see if it's actually a Civil War movie or not. But and then Cold Mountain, the Nicole Kidman movie.
Yeah. I think that used to be on Netflix at one point.
I think so too.
But
yeah,
it's really interesting because we like history. We just like different parts of it.
Yeah.
We just have different, like you love Civil War, but I love the Revolutionary War.
Yeah.
I think it stems because there was that PBS show, Liberty's Kids. I think that's where my love for the Revolutionary War came about.
Yeah.
And I've also in like school, that was just like my strongest subject, believe it or not. But I'm also good remembering dates, and that's just another side thing. But I love the Revolutionary War, and if you love that, I think you would like this, though, to be honest, because it's just a really good show. It's just not all about the history stuff. I mean, it's a great history story. And there was a spy ring. Oh, I know. The one famous person that's in it, and he's not in it for long, is the guy who plays in Office Space, the red stapler guy.
Yeah, Milton, Stephen Root.
Milton something. He's in this very...
Milton's the name of the character, but Stephen Root's the name of the actor.
Yeah, he's only in it for like a little, maybe over a season. Because there's 4 seasons of this show, and there's only 10 episodes, or no, 13 maybe, 10 or 13.
Mm-hmm.
But he's only in it for like he's either in overlapping seasons, or he's only in one season. I can't remember. Mm-hmm. But basically, I mean, you like spy stuff too, so this is really good for that. It's just about the whole spy ring about Washington and how it basically won the war.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know how like factual it actually was. I need to look into that to verify that. But like, mm-hmm. if it's true, I mean, that's really insane how much that actually came out to be.
Yeah.
And it also just showed like how much the United States was struggling just to be a nation. Yeah. Just like Congress was bankrupt, like they couldn't pay their soldiers. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine like you're fighting in this war and you have a family back at home and you basically can't pay to feed them because, you know, back then, of course, women couldn't work. Mm-hmm. To earn money, I should say.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're off trying to fight for a country that you want to be a country from a kingdom that's over the ocean, you know, that doesn't even give a shit about you. They just want the money from you. You know, what are you supposed to do? Mm-hmm. But it's really good about that. You would like it. But another show I watch is called Reign. It's about Mary Queen of Scots. Mm-hmm. That show is not even close to being historically accurate. It's just a good drama, to be honest with you. I wouldn't even classify it as historical because it's not even close to being accurate.
Yeah.
But Megan Follows is in it. If you don't know her, she was in the original Anne of Green Gables. I love her in that. But she does a good job in this show, and I think that's pretty much it. Like as far as people being in it that I know of, I can remember. And then The Crown, which you've seen parts of that, haven't you?
I don't think so.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. But The Crown is about Elizabeth II, in England and Prince Philip and all that stuff. I think that one's pretty historically accurate because they have to obviously probably run that by her a little bit, I would think, since she's still alive.
Yeah.
There's a really cool episode where she meets Jackie Kennedy and JFK. You would like a lot. It shows kind of like how much, I hate to say it, JFK was kind of a dick.
Kind of
to his wife.
Yeah.
Especially to his wife. I know how much you love JFK stuff, but they at least in this episode of this show, they kind of portrayed him as a dick.
Yeah.
But that's a good show if you like history, or if you like British stuff too. It's a good British show. Anne with an E, which is like the reboot of Anne of Green Gables. That's been solid. I had to grow into it because I'm so attached to Megan Follows. You know, like when you're attached to a certain character or a certain like actor playing a certain character and they reboot it and it's just not the same. But with this show, they actually kind of redone that. Like, I still love them both equally. That's how much good they've done with this new reboot. They came out with a new season. I still haven't seen it yet. It just came out like I think a few days ago. So I need to watch that, but it's really good. It's set in Canada, so there's that. This is a show I technically haven't finished yet. It was on HBO. It's called Euphoria. It has Zendaya in it, and that's like pretty much the big name in this. But it's a show that it's an acquired taste, I should say. She plays a teenager that's basically addicted to drugs, and the show starts out, she's like come back from rehab because she had a really bad overdose that her sister found her younger sister. So she has to deal with that, like, oh cool, my sister found me like this, my little sister found me like this. And it's basically her navigating high school and her dealing with the ramifications of her being addicted to drugs and stuff. It's a good show. It's just, you have to take it in doses, literally, because it's a really heavy show. So I haven't gotten back into it. I think I've watched like 6 or 7 episodes, and I don't know how many there are. I think there's only 1 season. I could be wrong. But my next show is a show we both love, and I could go on for hours about it, but it's The Mandalorian.
That's a good one, yeah.
Baby fucking Yoda, y'all.
Yep.
Baby fucking Yoda. I don't think he'll stop hearing about it from me because I love Baby Yoda so fucking much. I've literally nearly cried because of how much I love Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
Baby Yoda is the most wholesome fucking thing on the internet right now, and I can't get enough of him.
Yep.
Like, all the baby fucking Yoda memes give me life.
Mm-hmm.
Baby Yoda is the cutest goddamn thing, and I will hear nothing else.
Yep.
Like, his little squeaks, whenever they show him in the show, I just like, well, kill me now. It's just the cutest thing I've ever seen.
Yep.
And the guy who plays the Mandalorian is Oberyn from Game of Thrones, so I can't unhear that voice.
Yep.
But it's a great show. It's a good Star Wars, spin-off, whatever it's supposed to be. But baby fucking Yoda is all I have to say.
Yep.
The next show is a heavier subject. It's called The Handmaid's Tale. You've seen me watch some of those. It has Elizabeth Moss in it. She's fucking fantastic. Alexis Bledel from, Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants and Gilmore Girls.
Uh-huh.
And then she was, and then who else is in it? Bradley Whitford has been in the recent season. Christopher Maloney. I think that's pretty much like the big names that have been in this show. But it's basically set in a world where women's rights, reproductive rights, have completely flip-flopped.
Yeah.
And America, it's almost like a dystopian America because it's not called America anymore. It's called Gilead. They made it like super duper religious. And basically what's happened, it's like women, fertility rate has dramatically dropped. So what they have done is like this cult has taken over basically and turned over the government upside down.
Yeah.
And they're called handmaids, and they're supposed to basically have children by these handmaids. So like the husbands are called commanders. So basically the commanders fuck the handmaids so they can have children, and the wives will raise those children.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that kind of scenario?
That's awful.
Yeah. I don't want to, I could go on about it, but it's just really, like, if you're concerned about women's rights going downhill, what it could look like, this is exactly what it would look like. It's scary. But it's a really good show about rebellion, and it's a good show about taking our ownership of our bodies back. It's a good show. It's just a good show. I know it's definitely not everybody's cup of tea if it's too heavy. But if you're a woman in 2020, you should watch it. But the other show that I only have two more shows I have to talk about here. One of them is a show that Alex and Tiff recommended to me and have been begging me to watch. It's called Shameless. Every definition of the word excessive the show is.
Yeah.
It's just really good though. What's his face plays the dad. Oh my gosh.
Macy.
Yes, I'm having trouble with names today. But William H. Macy plays the alcoholic dad, and just all the shenanigans this family gets into when you have an alcoholic father and you're dirt poor, living in the slums of Chicago. It's just fucking wild. Like,
yeah.
Oh my God. Like, it just, you don't think this stuff should be allowed on TV, some of the stuff that happens on this show, but it happens.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay, that happened. Okay, that happened. But it's great. It's a good story. But I'm only on season 4, so I'm not caught up quite yet. I think there's 9 seasons right now. I think they just released a new season, if I'm not mistaken. So, but it's a good show so far. I have no complaints. I'm just in a bad part right now where I don't want to keep watching because I'm really mad at one of the characters.
Yeah.
But it's a good show. It's a really solid show. I know you're probably never going to watch it, but I think it's great. I don't know if it'd ever make like my top TV shows of all time list, but it's a really, really good show. And the last show, which I recommend everybody fucking watch this show, It's called Jane the Virgin. Jane the Virgin was like my highlight of the year besides Letterkenny.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Jane the Virgin is just so fucking delightful. Like, it's set like telenovelas, which is like soap operas, but it's not cringy soap opera. It's like super wholesome, but it's like super entertaining. The twists and turns that this show has, just like, oh, yep, you didn't think that would happen. No, yep, that happened. That's cool. But it's not excessive. It's believable. But basically the premise is Jane gets pregnant. She's a virgin. Obviously, it's called Jane the Virgin. But she's a virgin, and she gets accidentally inseminated at her, like, yearly checkup.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can imagine, like, well, that happening is just, like, fucking insane.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lawsuit on your hands.
Yeah.
It's literally an immaculate conception because she's a virgin.
Yep.
But it's such a delight. She doesn't know who her dad is, so that discovery happens. She lives with her grandma and her mom, and she works at this hotel, and the hotel owner is the father, technically, of the baby that she was inseminated with.
Yeah.
It's insane, but it's so good. Like, I cannot get over how good this show is, because I'm a person that loves routine, and I will rewatch old shows. Like, I've always wanted to keep rewatching One Tree Hill. Like, if that was the last show I had on Earth, I'd rewatch it over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
But I found myself in this cycle of rewatching shows that I've already seen before. And I'm like, I really need to get out of that, and I really need to expand my horizons.
Yeah.
So this was like the first one that like caught my eye, and I not regretted it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the show's done now. Like, it ended on TV. It was on Fox, I think, or I think it was Fox. But I think that, yeah, there's 5 seasons, but oh my God, it's just like one of the greatest shows of all time. I cannot recommend it enough. I think it's a show that can be accessible to everyone. I think it can fit everybody's tastes.
Mm-hmm.
I've even gotten my mom into it, and it's one, and the show, how it ends, is just so perfect. It's so heartwarming. It's just exactly what you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. It's not like Game of Thrones, where it just fucking rips your fucking heart out after investing 9 seasons into it.
Yeah, we won't go there, because I think Alex and I went there, Aaron and I went there a little bit. We don't need to retread it. None of us liked the last season of Game of Thrones. I think most people didn't, but
there was like a couple good episodes.
Yeah.
Like Battle of Winterfell was a great episode.
And it was all downhill from there.
Yeah. After that, no. The first 3 episodes are great. Don't watch the last 3.
Exactly.
That's about it. But yeah, if you want a satisfying show ending, watch Jane the Virgin, because it's exactly what happens.
You heard it here first, folks. If you were unsatisfied with Game of Thrones, watch a show that has a good ending, like Jane the Virgin.
Yep. And I mean, that's been pretty, and the big thing, of course, this year was that we got married. So
yeah,
that was the highlight of my year, so I can't really complain.
Yep, it was a great year. I mean, like, the world is a dumpster fire, but I think we had a pretty good year overall with our, wedding and our media consumption, as we've reported in these podcasts. So yeah, I think that's going to do it here today for the 3rd episode of the ANG cast. I'm not sure what we're going to do with the podcast going forward. I think I'm going to try to incorporate me and Alex's lists that we normally do on our streams into this podcast somehow, but we haven't really set a timeline or structure for that yet, so stay tuned. But yeah, be sure to catch Christa's latest 100 Baby Challenge episodes of The Sims that she's put up on the channel. Like I said, as of the time that this podcast is posted, we are doing a live stream of The Sims tomorrow, in which we'll be doing our top 10 Disney movie lists.
So excited.
Yeah, here's hoping that the computer doesn't crap out on us, so hopefully everything goes to plan.
And just to clarify, I did a test with Twitch, and it says it's running fine whenever I stream it, so hopefully that stays the case.
Let's hope for the best. Let's hope we can recreate those conditions for the stream tomorrow too.
I think I don't get a lot of feedback, like direct feedback from this. So when I would love to like have that interaction, to just have that direct feedback of what I'm doing and like your guys' reactions to what's happening and stuff, because I enjoy it. I just want to see other people enjoy it with me. So
Yeah. Well, we got Alex's fiance Tiffany watching 100 Baby Challenge stuff, so that's exciting.
And Tiffy, I'm so sorry I made you mean. I apologize. I feel so bad. And Alex is erratic. He's crazy. I don't know what's happening to my game.
And of course, we're talking about their characters in the game, not them
No,
themselves.
no. Yeah, no, they're great. They're great.
Yeah.
We love you. But their Sims are just crazy and mean. I don't know what's happening. I feel so terrible.
All right. Well, yeah, you heard it here first. You're going to see a Sims live stream for the first time on this channel tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern.
No more crazy or erratic people, please.
Yes. Thank you for listening to the third episode of the ANG Cast podcast, where we talk about video games and everything else in between. Thanks to my wife Christa for being here and sharing her 2019 lists with me today.
Yep.
Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Check out all of our pages on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Check us out on YouTube, Twitch, and Mixer as well. And we will see you guys next time. Bye.